What's up YouTube, Evan from Epic Duel Time here. I'm doing a video for you guys for the segment Know the Rule Before You Duel. Yes, I'm finally getting back to being able to do the segment for you guys. This is a popular segment, a lot of people liked it. Unfortunately, it does take a little while to do a lot of these videos, so these take a little longer than usual to be able to edit. However, I've got one for you guys. This is going to be about the topic negating the activation, and also being able to break down the difference between activating something once per turn using the effect, and then kind of the ideas of negating something and negating the activation, and the difference and how that all kind of plays out. So let's talk about some examples of where we see some of this text. Let's look at these two great examples, Effect Veiler and Herald of Orange Light. A lot of people compare the two cards, and aside from the destruction effect, generally these are almost the same card, except for like Herald pitches another fairy and can destroy, and Veiler cannot, also during main phase and things. So there's difference in timing, but these cards are compared quite a lot. There's a really stark difference between the two, and I want to read the bit of text that talks about it. Let's go to Effect Veiler first. During your opponent's main phase, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard to select one face-up effect monster your opponent controls. Negate the effects of that monster until the end phase. Then let's go to Herald of Orange Light. During either player's turn, when an opponent's effect monster activates, you can send this card and one other fairy type monster from your hand to the graveyard. Negate the activation and destroy it. So obviously, Herald destroys a card, but there's another difference in text, which is what this video is about, which is negating the activation versus Veiler, who just negates. The idea of this is you activate effects to start them. That's how we get chain links. You activate them. What we're doing is we're removing the idea that the effect activated. So you're not just negating it, you're negating the idea that it even started in the first place. And that can matter. I'll get to that in a minute. Other good examples are the difference between Dulka and Photon Strike Balancer. Let's read them. During either player's turn, when a monster effect activates, you can detach one Xyz material from this card, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy the monster. Once per turn, during either player's turn, when a monster effect is activated on the opponent's side of the field, you can detach one material from this card, negate the effect, and if you do, inflict 1000 damage to your opponent. Now, most times what we're seeing is that the idea of negating the activation is actually preventing, is also killing the monster too. So we're seeing that hand in hand. That's not always the case. It usually is, but it's not always the case. Let's go to Naturia Beast. We see while this card is face up on the field, you can send the top two cards of your deck to the graveyard, negate the activation of a spell. Spell Canceller. As long as this card remains face up on the field, spell cards cannot be activated. The effects of all spell cards are also negated. That's important. What we're seeing is cannot be activated. You can't even try to use it. Under Naturia Beast, you can. They just have to mill to negate it. But in Spell Canceller, you can't even try. And then we're seeing the effects of all spell cards are also negated. Then we see Seven Tools of the Bandit says to negate the activation, but Trapstone just says negate it. So what does any of this matter? This is the first example. Negating the activation. Fire Formation Tenki. When this card is activated, you can add a level 4 or lower beast type warrior monster from your beast warrior type monster from your deck to your hand. All beast warriors gain the 100. You can only activate one Fire Formation Tenki per turn. Spellbook of Secrets says you can only activate one Spellbook of Secrets per turn. So the point of this video is if you were to negate either of those cards without negating the activation, I can't activate a second copy because I activated it. The same applies to Pot of Duality. However, if you had Naturia Beast and I play Tenki, right? And you negate the activation and destroy it, I can play another Tenki. Even though it says I can only activate one Fire Formation Tenki per turn. Why? Because you negated that activation. It didn't happen. It's gone. You took care of it. You made sure that didn't happen. The same thing goes for Spellbook of Secrets. So cards that negate the activation and destroy them simply mean the game state now acknowledges you tried, it just failed, and now you could try again, providing the card lets you. But there's sometimes instances where you cannot do that. A couple good examples are Brotherhood of the Firefist Rooster and Harpy Channeler. Newer cards have been including this text. When this card is special summoned by the effect of a Firefist monster, you can add one Firefist monster from your deck to your hand. You can only use the effect of Brotherhood of the Firefist Rooster once per turn. And it's this effect, I should say. Then, once per turn, you can send one face-up Fire Formation spell or trap you control to the graveyard. Set one Fire Formation spell or trap directly from the deck. So, we're seeing two different effects, and I want to talk about why they're different. The Rooster's first effect says, you can only use this effect once per turn. So, if you had Rooster, and you went and negated his activation and destroyed him with Herald, and I had another Rooster somehow to special summon with the effect of a Firefist monster, I still can't use that effect again. Because it doesn't say you can only activate the effect, it says you can only use it. The second one, however, says once per turn you can send one face-up spell or trap you control of the graveyard. It says once per turn. In this case, it's saying that every time you have a new Rooster, you can do it once per turn. So if I have 3 Roosters, I can use each one of them once per turn. Whereas if it says you can only use this effect of Brotherhood of Firefist once per turn, Brotherhood of the Firefist Rooster, I should stop omitting words there, that simply means that even if I had 3, that first effect can only be used once per turn. So let's say I have some way to special summon 3 Roosters by a Firefist monster. Only one of them's ever going to get that first effect. Harpy Channeler is similar. You can discard a Harpy card. Special summon one Harpy monster from your deck in face-up defense position except Harpy Channeler. You can only use this effect of Harpy Channeler once per turn. You can only use this effect of Harpy Channeler once per turn. That means no matter how many channelers you have, you can only use it once. And if they negate the activation and destroy it, you won't get a second chance to use it. You can't try it with a new channeler. You can't try it with a new Rooster. However, on that second effect of Rooster, if you try it, you can do it again. So, once per turn, you can send a face-up Fire Formation spell or trap, and you negate the activation, destroy it. I've got a new one, so I can use it now. So we see 3 different real texts here. We're seeing, use once per turn, and you can only activate this effect once per turn. Usually, it mentions the name of itself to signify that no matter how many cards of that name you have, you can only use once per turn. Just to cover this base, even though Harpy Channeler renames herself Harpy Lady, she still counts as Harpy Channeler as the text, and that's a condition. She does not acknowledge herself as Harpy Lady, conditionally. Another couple good examples are Debunk, which negates the activation of an effect monster's effect and banishes it. Again, we're seeing negating the activation. And then Soul Drain. Activate by paying 1,000 life points. Monsters that are banished, as well as monsters in the graveyard, cannot activate their effects. So it means they can't try to start their effects. Debunk says, well, I stopped you from using the effect, and we're going to pretend it didn't happen. And Soul Drain's going to say, you can't even try to start it. Now, when we're talking about activating effects, we talk about Soul Drain and how it keeps you from even trying to start. These 3 cards, Breakthrough Skill, Fiendish Chain, Skill Drain, as well as Effect Veiler, because they're not negating your activation, and they're not preventing you from activating, they're just saying that your effects are negated. So you can go ahead and try to activate them, and you can pay their cost. So let's say, like, your opponent has a face-up monster that's not a Beast Warrior, and I've got Tiger King, and he's under Fiendish Chain. I can still detach to try to negate. It's just going to be negated, because technically I could chain MST. But as long as I could realistically activate my effect without it, I can still do it under it. So I can still activate my effect, I just pay the cost, and what happens? It's negated. Fiendish Chain doesn't say, target one effect monster on the field, it cannot activate its effect. It just says its effects are negated. They know the difference between those texts. They want them to mean different things. Fiendish Chain doesn't prevent me from activating the effects, or else it would say something like Soul Drain does. But I can still activate under it. It doesn't negate my activations. It doesn't prevent my activations. It just negates my effects. And that's all. Effects can be tricky. You gotta kind of have to watch the wording of them. And this is just a fast little tutorial as to kind of break down the different types of effects, the different language that are used in these effects, and why it's relevant. If you guys have any questions, I'll be monitoring the comments for a few weeks on this video, so I can take care of any questions you have, any more specific scenarios. But please try, if it's about this, just try to watch this maybe once or twice to at least get a real feel for this topic and understand. And then if you have any questions afterwards, please field them out. If you're watching this video and you're reading through the comments and you see something that you can put some input on, feel free. Just keep it respectful and keep it cool. And I'll try to get to anybody who has any questions. As always, like, comment, subscribe, and keep dueling, America.